Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in with, finally, the new Hero Academia opening analysis. We're going to go through, we're going to see what is going on in the opening, and we're going to talk about what they might be pointing to or what little things are going on here and there. This opening does have a few moments that you kind of have to freeze the frame to really see a few little details, but otherwise it's going to be a fun one. Hey everyone, hope you're well, and let's just get right into it. Already the first image that I got here is an image that's actually sparked a lot of conversation. I've had people asking me, well, who are these characters? And specifically, when I say these characters, I mean this guy over here and this guy right here. Alright, so these two characters, it's really funny because some people are coming up and saying like, oh, are these guys going to get more attention in the anime proper? Are they going to show up? Who are they? The thing is, actually, it's the anime that's just being really good about this. These characters have already shown up before. It's actually kind of funny. They've been there since the beginning of the series. Check it out. Do you remember this scene? Do you remember this image in general? If you can't see who we're looking at right here, this guy right here, and this guy. So if you were to actually look at this, what the anime did was just they brought back designs that they haven't used since USJ. So ultimately, when people come in and they ask, oh, are these characters about to get new stuff? It's like, no, I can guarantee, like, they're not going to get new stuff. They're probably not going to get anything in Hero Academia aside from showing up in the background, honestly. It's just probably not going to happen. And you know, this is just a situation where if when you first saw these characters in the manga, you had asked, oh, are these guys going to show up in the story proper? If you had said, oh yeah, probably, you know, we've seen what's happened, they didn't show up, that's why they're probably not going to show up going into the future. So this first shot is really just a nice callback to that one shot from that very first arc, or you know, like what, it was the fourth or third arc in. When you're looking at the heroes presented here in this shot too, it does pretty much line up with everyone that was there for USJ. Now if there's anything interesting to point out here, it may be just the order in which people showed up. I was really interested in how some of the prominent characters are behind some of the less prominent characters. Like for instance, you have Koda right here, but then you have Kirishima behind him. You know, I don't think there's any real meaning to which characters came on, but I do feel kind of bad for Kirishima being put behind Koda of all people. You have Ida over here too. Ida's pretty clear, so that's okay. Now, there is one more interesting thing here, and this has to do a lot with Momo. When we're talking about prominent characters, Momo is interesting because, well, when Izuku shows up, he shows up with Shoto, Bakugo, Uraraka, and Tsuyu. Now, 4 of those people make sense. Uraraka showing up makes sense. Shoto and Bakugo showing up makes sense. Those are like Shoto and Bakugo and Izuku are the power trio. They're going to be the ones always showing up. I'm always so interested when it comes to Tsuyu and Momo, because technically, Momo a lot of times seems like she is the second main female character. And then Tsuyu is just Ochako's tag-along. So it's always interesting because the anime goes all over the place. Sometimes the anime will put out promotional material that makes it look like Momo's the one who gets billing over Tsuyu. And sometimes you have moments like this where Tsuyu is the one that pops up and is ahead of everyone else. Now mind you, Tsuyu gets a filler episode this season, so that might be elevating her importance here. And this ultimately just comes out from the author not knowing what to do with Tsuyu properly. It's honestly just very interesting to see whenever this kind of problem happens. Okay, next we go into this shot, right? This is one of those big shots which is like, oh my god, what is going on here? Why is everything so sucky? And why are these three right just sitting down? Like, what happened? Now, of course, the thing that makes this scene interesting is that there is a connection with the current manga arc. There's a connection with the current events here. When you see these three just standing in a ruined city, it's like, well, are they referencing the manga? And this is like a pretty good question. And like the song too, it goes in and it's saying everything's going to be okay. So it's interesting. Now, the thing is, you know, they might be referencing the far future of the manga potentially. But at the same time, you know, they're throwing in so many other things, such as Bakugo's costume, which is setting this very strictly in winter. You can tell that's because, well, that's the costume we're using for this season, so therefore we're going to be showing off that particular costume. That makes sense. I think what you're seeing here, this scene is a combination of both trying to be appropriate to the current season and also maybe giving a hint to the far future. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here is that Horikoshi in the manga has done color panels before where it kind of looks like it's post-apocalyptic. Like he does a lot of battle damage type images. He does a lot of like really weird color spreads. So actually this scene, it is really consistent with the spirit of Hero Academia in terms of how Horikoshi kind of hypes things up with the color pages, or how he goes about giving extra exposition to characters on color pages. So I am not too concerned here. I do think this might have been a thing where the anime just thought like, yeah, you know, this will be a pretty cool scene. It has no real relevance to the current season of Hero Academia, but it is pretty consistent with everything else that happens in Hero Academia. Overall, this is probably one of those nice surprises. And in terms of the anime-only viewers, like the anime-only viewers are going to see this, and it's not like they've been spoiled. They're going to see this and they're like, oh, you know, this didn't really happen this season, so that might give them a little bit of a surprise and maybe make it so that they don't believe other openings in the future. It'll make the guessing game more interesting for the anime-only fans, which is appreciated. I do appreciate when openings just put in random scenes. I just want to say, in general, I thought this was a pretty cool shot. Someone should probably just super strength that hydrant closed. But seriously, the reflection, the water flowing, the colors, I thought this was a very cool shot. Mind you, since this is a walk cycle, it's worth pointing out that the anime staff 100% saved a lot of resources doing this shot. Alright, so this is the really interesting one. We have the members of the Liberation Army showing up here. You have Redestro, Curious, Skeptic, Getin, and Trumpet. Cool stuff overall. I love that his pinky is spread out here. The man knows he's a fancy man. Curious is right behind him, so this is actually really interesting in how they're structured. Redestro, Curious, and then the other three behind them. This is probably because Curious is the only female character, so she's getting some significance. Also, Curious probably has one of the more developed rhetorics. If you look at the order, they are ordered in the most developed rhetorics with Redestro, Curious, and Skeptic, with Getin and Buddy Guy just being there at the bottom. No, this is overall cool. When you look where they're standing, there's also observation platform. Oh, I should have let this go. You have this guy in the back, which manga fans, we know this is related to Skeptic right over here. Then we have the shot of the villains, Toga, Twice, Shigaraki, Compressed, Dabi, and Spinner. They're also sitting in wreckage. That probably is more appropriate for what they end up doing, but honestly, the theme of the opening is wreckage in general, so this is probably just a cool shot. It's nice to see Toga's little costume here, though. Okay, and then we have the hands. So we know that the hands are going to be very important for Shigaraki here, and the way he's holding it here, you know, this kind of gives the impression, oh yeah, imagine him holding his sister's hand or something like that. That's probably why they went for that particular look, just to kind of evoke the feeling of family, given that family is going to be a big thing for Shigaraki in this season. Okay, and now this is the obligatory, oh hey look, this is the show off the people in 1A shot. Now unfortunately these people are not going to be showing up in the season, but what we can take away from here is just who got grouped with who. So already I think it's interesting that Aoyama and Hagakure are together, because that makes sense given that they are currently interning together, but then Mineta is here. So unfortunate that Mineta got thrown in there. Then you have Ojiro and Sato. I believe these two are also together, so that one might be appropriate. Shoji and Jiro are together because they were gang Orca, so that makes sense. Also, worth pointing out, they're both the sensory duo. Next we had Ida and Momo. So this one's interesting in that they're not together for their internship, but this is the president and the vice president. It's kind of unfortunate that Ida only gets to show off his legs and we don't get to see that glorious mask. We move on to Kaminari and Seiro. So this is interesting in that really I think Mineta should have been shoved in here. Mineta should not have been with Hagakure and Aoyama. It would have been more appropriate for Mineta to be here with the people he's actually working with. Also worth pointing out is that Kaminari and Mineta are actually friends. So I'm not sure why move Mineta into the other group and take him away from this spot, because this would have been the more appropriate one. I do think this might be a little bit of a mistake on the anime's part. Then you have Koda and Tokoyami. So the significance here is that these two are not working together right now, but they did work together once upon a time back when they were attacked by villains the first time. So this is just a really neat little callback. I do like Koda using birds as Tokoyami, the literal bird man, is using Dark Shadow behind it. Mind you, Koda almost always uses birds, so that's not very that impressive. Next, this is another interesting one, Kirishima and Ashiro. So Mina is definitely removed from Hagakure and Aoyama because they want to put her against Kirishima, who otherwise would have been alone. I do think this was a good move because these two characters are really tightly interlinked. So this is a good move in general. This is kind of like Momo and Ira in that something else is connecting them in this particular shot. And of course, you have Suyu and Ochako. We're not going to make any comments about the poses. It makes sense why the two of them are together like this. They're currently on the same team. That is totally fine. Then we had the shots of Bakugo, Izuku, and Shoto moving into action. And now we come here where we're seeing the rest of the villains. So pretty neat. This is a nice shot. It doesn't really tell us anything about their character other than Skeptic likes his laptop and Curious is welcoming. Now I have to start going back because we missed a shot. Here we have Twice. This is just of course indicative of Twice's trauma that he's going to be dealing with. Seeing so many Twice there is also indicative of Sadman's parade. And then we have this shot of Aizawa and President Mike along with the cat. So for this one, we know where we're going. We know now that the next episode is going to be Aizawa and the Kurogiri episode. So that's why this shot is here. And of course, good to reference that Aizawa likes cats. This shot is flat out a recreation of the shot from the manga. This is just the genesis of Shigaraki, just showing it off. Then we have Redestro most likely overlooking Deika City. It's just an establishing shot overall. Now this shot is interesting. This shot is referencing specifically, I think, the events around New Year's where All Might was looking towards the sky and Aizawa was out there with him. This is one of those shots that tells you like, hey, you know, one day Yue is going to be attacked, because this is one of those shots that came in with Aizawa saying that everything's going to be okay or something along those lines because this was Yue. It's nice that they put in the shot and it just ultimately tells us, okay, yeah, we're gonna see this little talk between Aizawa and All Might at some point. We have a really pretty shot of Toga just looking cool. Makes sense because Toga's gonna have a moment. Then we have this shot directly lifted from the manga itself. Mind you, I think they might have made it a little bit less cluttered than the manga's version, but here we have Dr. Garaki. Cool stuff. Next is the shot of Hawks lifting off. Another establishing shot just to indicate what Hawks was doing in general. It's a pretty nice shot. I like the red contrasted against the blue. Now, here we begin with Shigaraki with his hand over the hand that's on his face. You know, there's a lot of things going on with Shigaraki in his hands. We can derive all kinds of meanings from this. We know that Shigaraki derives comfort from those hands. So now the next sequence that we're going into is just that little action sequence with the boys. You can see that they're following behind Endeavor. Not really the most important shot in the whole thing. Like in terms of money shots, I'm not sure that there were any money shots for this opening. So there we had the overlay between Endeavor and All Might, and that was just kind of there to highlight the differences and show the change of the era, that now it's Endeavor's back that people are looking towards. And this also has to do with Endeavor and his general complex about trying to replace All Might. Next we have that little trick where they show the stars rotating around one central star. Do I have anything to say about this particular scene other than it's like kind of pretty? Not really. I mean, it kind of shows us the passage of time. The lyrics are going, now it's our round. I'm sure because the song is called Merry-Go-Round that they're doing a lot of rotation just to keep in line with the song itself, but not the most exciting shot in the world. Okay, next we have, well, Shigaraki just destroyed Deika. We have Shoto having a little bit of an action shot. Doesn't really tell us much. We have Redestro looking sinister. Again, not really telling us much. We have Bakugo's moment. Now this one was cool because here is Shigaraki grabbing the hand and destroying the hand. So that's just interestingly him saying that he's destroying the hand's influence on him, kind of showing a little bit of growth, but Shigaraki's kind of all over the place when it comes to the hands. So this is just really indicating that one moment in the arc. Next we have Izuku again and following after Endeavor. So overall, really, when we're looking at this isn't the most exciting opening in terms of money shots. I think it's fair to say in terms of money shots, there's nothing here. If you want to call it a money shot, your money shots are probably just the kids jumping through the air, which isn't all that impressive. The opening before this one, you had the really impressive shot of everyone using their quirks, whereas this opening kind of just shifted towards showing these static shots, which isn't as impressive. You could say that this is also a little bit more of a somber opening, but that's really unfortunate because they really could have gone all out with just the epicness of My Villain Academia in general. Instead, they kind of go all over the place and they just focus on the idea of Endeavor at the end here. Yeah, like that, no matter how you look at it, that's not a money shot. One thing that the opening did do is that it got a lot of mileage out of those very quick one-frame shots. I think that was pretty cool just because you could pause throughout it. But yeah, for this opening of Hero Academia, we have one that indicates a lot of My Villain Academia, but otherwise, it's a pretty somber opening when you're looking at the visuals. Still, this was the second Season 5 opening for My Hero Academia. Guys, let me know what you thought down below, and let me know if there's any little details that you think I've missed here. I don't think there were. Ultimately, there weren't that many things to analyze, but let me know what you thought down below. And until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.